So, ladies and gentlemen, this room is filled with great minds and individuals who can answer the questions we may have had. Later on, when my colleague Inshado takes over, we will have an opportunity to witness a panel discussion and also an opportunity to ask more questions. But talking about opportunity, the AfCFTA provides us with an opportunity of a lifetime. I know that in this room, please put up your hand if you understand what the AfCFTA is 100%. Put up your hand. If you've heard of it and you wonder in its entirety what it means, also put up your hand. If you've heard of it, understand it, and are taking advantage of it, please put up your hand. Nobody in this room is taking advantage of the AfCFTA? Then, Gilberto, you have a lot of work to do. And that's the exciting part. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Senior Advisor to the Secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area, Mr. Gilberto Antonio.
Thank you very much, the organizer. Thank you, Yasmin, for invite us, the AfCFTA Secretariat. Some of you call us AfTA Secretariat, so there is African Continental Free Trade Areas to come, share with you what we have been doing, because our goal is to have African SMEs more resilient, more competitive, and to do more business among ourselves. So there's a error on the title. It should be $3 trillion. So what we are doing is to build one single market with combined GDP of $3.4 trillion. So a huge market. Potential consumer estimate in 1.3 billion people. So you may know that it's not easy to be entrepreneurial, and it's not easy to do cross-border trade. In Africa, you have 55 countries, and each country may have its own regulations, its own practice. And so for SMEs to export to one country, it means a challenge when it comes to customer procedures and different challenge that you may face. That is why the head of state of African Union decided to create a single market with harmonized rules and regulations, and where SMEs from Ghana will be able to export easily to South Africa and to Egypt. So we have this agreement, the free trade area, but we are doing beyond the agreement, because for us, if we just let the agreement as it is, it will be more large companies who will take advantage of this. So we have some tools that we are focused on small and medium enterprise, given that you are really very important for African economy in terms of numbers of companies that exist in Africa, in terms of also of job creation, and in terms of the contributions to the economy. So what we are creating is the largest free trade area in the world in terms of numbers of participants. All African countries signed the agreement, with only exceptions Eritrea. It means we have 54 countries who have signed the agreement, and 44 countries decide to fully implement it by ratifying the agreement. So you have already heard from previous speakers about the potential that exists in Africa in terms of a human resource, in terms of also natural resource. Before COVID, most of 6 up to 10 fastest economy in the world was in Africa. Before COVID, the level of growth in terms of a middle class was astonishing if we compare with what's happened elsewhere. So how we are creating this single market? When coming to trading goods, what we want is that SMEs producing in Ghana, when is exporting to Rwanda, it will not pay import tax. So we have created a duty-free market for most of the tradable goods. There's a commitment among members that for most of the tradable goods, 97% of the tradable goods will be free without any import tax. We are also working on what we call non-tariff barrier, is questions related with the customers. We are harmonizing and simplify all the procedures to make sure that you, SMEs from Ghana, when you are able to export to Rwanda and you decide to diversify by exporting to South Africa, the customer procedures will be the same, so there will not be this challenge of almost starting again from the scratch to know how to proceed with your export. On trade and service, we are working to allow the service providers of Ghana to be able to go to South Africa and to provide its service. So we are now focused on the 5 sectors that are priorities, and we are pushing for members to open more among ourselves than that we did under the WTO. And we are working also on the rules of origin that is very crucial for SMEs. We want to make sure that when the good is going from one country to another, it's really produced in Africa. We want to avoid that any country outside of Africa take advantage of this free trade area, just do the package and benefit of this preference. And this is also very important for industrialization, working on a value addition. Also important is that this is not just trade agreements with the trading goods and service. We are also negotiating some other areas that we think are very important for trade. One is an investment. We want to harmonize the regulations. If you are from Ghana, you are investing in Egypt or in Nigeria or in South Africa, we want that your investment benefit of the protections and some guarantees. We are working also, very important for us, is the intellectual properties. You may have innovation, and it's sometimes very difficult to protect. What we are trying to create is a continental framework where your innovation can be protected here in Ghana and elsewhere in Africa. Last but not least, we are also make sure that the big players don't by their anti-competitive behavior affect you, small and medium enterprise. So we create a framework related with competition. So for us, the free trade area is not just to allow trade in goods, trade in service, but is also a tool for industrialization. And for that, we are really focused on the value chain. We have been working with partners, and we have identified 4 priorities for us. And we are working really to not just in terms of working with the government, but mobilize also funds to allow SMEs, to allow African companies to be part of this continental value chain. So we have identified 4. First, without any order, we identified the automotive industry. We want that Africa doesn't become only a place for the assembly of the car, and the car after will benefit of tariff reductions under the AfCFTA. We want that the car produced in Africa or made in Africa is most of the component made in Africa. So we create a fund with AfrixBank, $1 billion, and we are working with the government. We want to make sure that all the components related to the copper can be produced in Zambia, rubber can be produced in Liberia and Sierra Leone, and so on. We are working also on the pharmaceutical industry, and this is very important because we saw with COVID, when there's a pandemic, there's no guarantee that we will be priority. And every year we are importing, in terms of the pharmaceutical products and equipment, something that 11 billion USD. And most of the medication, most of the medicine, most of these products are generic products that we can produce. They are not complex. We have the same population as India, but India has 25 more companies on the pharmaceutical industry down in Africa. So we are pushing also that. We are pushing that at least the generic, the most sample medicine can be produced here in Africa and create opportunity for enterprise. We are working also, of course, very important for us, agriculture and agro-processing. Some of our member states are having a challenge. The challenge comes from what is happening in Russia and in Ukraine. While we know that 60% of Arab land is in Africa. So we are mobilizing funds to really boost this area because this is very important. Last but not least, there's also, of course, the issues of transport and logistics that is crucial for any company doing business in Africa. We are also complement that with the different tools. Here you are, as SMEs, if you are doing business with the counterpart in Togo, you have to go to a bank here in Ghana, and if you are paying, the cedis has to be converted first in dollar, and in dollar after to the franc CFA. So we create the platform where you will pay in cedis, and your colleague, your counterpart in Togo, will receive in his currency in franc. And with that, it will be faster, and we will save 5 billion USD that we are spending every year using SWIFT and other platform. We have also launched the AfCFTA Adjustment Fund. This is a fund that we want to make available for companies and for countries who are having a challenge to adjust themselves with the new context of an open, liberalized market. We are also mobilizing funds. We have been discussing with the bank, the most important African banks. What we want is to have a trade facility fund, trade finance facilities to allow SMEs, especially SMEs led by women, to have a resource to be a part of AfCFTA. We have other tools. If you want to, you are interested in export to Rwanda, you can go to a website where you will see your product and you will see what is the tax that is applied for you. We have seen that one of the challenges that some companies in Africa that are having is not only related with the tax, it's related also with the different checkpoints that you may have, with the different procedures that you're faced with. So we have now a platform where you SMEs, you can go to that platform and identify what kind of measures that you think was not fairly applied, and this information will go to the government, the concerned government, which will react under the framework of the AfCFTA. we have also, we are also focused on working in corridor approach. The idea is that if we work in one corridor, we improve the situation there. We can copy and, of course, not copy paste, but we can take the best practice and use it in a different corridor. Nowadays, our priority is Abidjan and Lagos corridor. So we are working really with the government authorities and with the enterprise to identify where's the problems and how can we solve it. Few months ago, we had a meeting with an entrepreneur who is exporting from Abidjan to Lagos, and he said that in this corridor, there are at least 35 checkpoints that he has to stop, and sometimes you may know what's happened when you are stopped there. So we are mobilizing the funds to improve this corridor. We are also mobilizing a fund for you SMEs in some specific area. We have mobilizing the fund. We signed a MOU with Afrique Bank and the World Food Program. Is really for loans on agriculture. We have also mobilized funds with equity in agro processing, and we are working with some institutions to improve the knowledge of you about what we have been doing and about how can you take advantage of the AfCFTA. So a few words about the guided trade initiative. I don't know if you are aware. What we've been seeing is that when we go in Africa and we meet the private sector, they always say, we have been heard about the AfCFTA, but we don't know and we are not do business with. So how can you make sure that it will not be just a statement, ministerial statement, or the Secretariat talking about some things that we don't see it, how and what is happening. So we had these ideas to have the initiative and to work with SMEs and the government. What we do is we discuss with the government of Ghana, different institutions. They will identify a small and medium company that are interested in exporting to Africa. We will also facilitate by doing business matching with the counterpart, let's say in Rwanda, and we will help you make sure that your goods will be exporting to this country under the framework with the AfCFTA. It means much easier, and you have the guarantee to have at least a 30% reductions in terms of import tax. So some countries are part of, Ghana is part of this initiative, Tunisia, Egypt, and so on. So in Ghana side, a couple of weeks ago, we launched we launched it, the initiative to the airport. So the ceramic is going from Ghana to Cameroon, for example. The same is happening. Tea is coming from Kenya to Ghana, and we want to improve the initiative. We want to make it work, and we want to include as much as possible in terms of the numbers of SMEs. Yeah, so what is also important for us is there we see the reality. What are the challenges that you are having to export to one country to another? So there's a lot of lessons learned. One is that in terms of framework is ready, but there is still challenge, logistical challenge. Even in challenge, sometimes it can happen that the border authorities, they don't have that deeper knowledge about the new framework, about how they can proceed with the AfCFTA, or at least under the AfCFTA. So I will stop here because I want to maybe allow you to ask more questions and to me to respond and to share what we are doing. But this is what is AfCFTA. We want to focus on a small and medium enterprise. We want to work with you. We want to make possible for you to export elsewhere to really have this a company that is resilient and allow a certain level of growth. Thank you very much.
Gilberto Antonio, thank you very much for clarifying what the AfCFTA is. And I do believe that when we do have a coffee break, we also make some time for Q&A around that time.